are back. Solid fucking Darity. James Hill. Very cool.
That is so what James would want.
Can you get a regular picture?
Yeah, I already got a couple.
Okay.
Here, you're in the way, Tim. And hold on, I'll get the camera right too.
So of course this is in honor of James Hill. Coast to coast, solid fucking Darity. Candlelight Vigil.
I'm so sad. I'm gonna cry.
All right, so does anybody want to speak on behalf of James? To honor James. All right.
I met James like 3 years ago in the scooter club that we used to go, and ever since then I knew that he was a little different. Like you could just like him even though you didn't know why. And throughout the years, I just kept, knowing him better, and I think I got to know myself better by knowing him. And we went, I saw him all around the U.S. and in Occupy, we spent many nights protesting, and D.C. and L.A. and everywhere. And just when he came back, we started going to the trivia night, and he loved that because it reminded him of Scrabble. This guy was smart. He got like 99% of them. I was just sitting there, just sharing the beer, honestly. There was I never answered. I answered one time. That was it. And I still can't believe he's gone. And I think it would take a good time before I realize that. But the fact that there's so many of us here, it's like it just shows that he's not really gone. Because as long as we remember him, he's still with us. So he might be gone in body, but he's still in spirit here forever. So, and what can I say? He's a friend, my best friend. So he will be missed. Thank you, Joe.
Anybody else? Who's next? Well, I guess I'll say he was a huge inspiration to me. I met him here at Occupy. Uh, I learned a lot from him about principles and the core of our beings and doing good for all of humanity, even though somebody's going to try to stop you to still do good. And the compassion shared between all people, that's important. And it's essential for the survival of our future, that we all got to love each other basically and do what's right. And solid fucking Darity.
Solid fucking there.
Christmas carols at the mayor's house would not have been possible without James's expertise in logistics. He really worked out the timing and disposition of that. So to James, Merry Christmas and solid fucking
When I went up and I visited him in Occupy DC for all of one day, and just a story. When I was walking into McPherson, literally as I'm walking into McPherson, how will we will find James and all this stuff. Literally, I walk in and there's James yelling and cursing at the park police. There's James, and he breaks off from doing it to come give me a hug, and then goes right back to doing it. So I mean, it's like, in retrospect, it's like, how else would I expect to find him? That's James right there.
Easy to find.
Good man.
Hey, who's next? Cat.
James was my favorite person to disagree with.
There you
I
go.
remember when it was four of us with Occupy Orlando, then it was six of us, and when it was about 20 of us, and we pulled together our first General Assembly meeting to announce our presence, James lit three of our organizers up on Facebook that night, along with a lot of other people. And we invited him the very next day. We said, you know, if you've got things to teach, that's why we're here. Come to our meeting. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Share your information. And he made a lot of people very angry, but he inspired a lot of people. And the thing about James was, is you could disagree with him, but his mind was open. And all of us had a lot to learn from him. I remember we used to joke and we used to say he was the anger of Occupy Orlando, all rolled up into one person. And when you needed to rile up the fucking field, you called James and you said, get down here and get them off their asses because they're sitting on the blankets and we're not getting anything done. And James would come up here and all of us would come up here and things would start to happen. Because around James, things just happened. And all of us are always going to remember Sala fucking Darity, and I know that we'll keep it going for him, for ourselves, and I think he would be so fucking psyched to see us all out here right now. He would love to see us facing the street that the police drive by with the word fuck right there for him. And just from me to you, James, right the fuck on, man.
Right the fuck on.
Fuck on.
It's short, but James. Oh, God damn it. Sorry, Tim.
It's okay.
James told me that it was really important to do activism if you have like mental health problems to like get that anger out in a productive way. So James taught me that, and it's been a really important lesson. That's it. Um, my favorite memory of James was on our way back from an action at City Hall, and we were driving in his van, and we were on our way to pick up his daughter. And I remember him just talking about how much he loved her and how she was doing such beautiful work, and he was so proud of her. We had to pick her up, I guess, to take her to work or something, and everything about him just lit up when he talked about her. And I mean, I love how he was such a huge impact on everyone with activism, but what I remember the most about James was that he was just a devoted father and he just loved her dearly. And that's what meant the most to me, was seeing him as a man and as a dad.
I'll say something. I guess for me, like I didn't get to spend as much time down on the ground with y'all because of my ankle situation and having to go into surgery. But way back at the beginning, at the October 5th meeting, I got to meet James. He taught us GA, the GA rules and consensus. Kept trying to get me to sit in my seat because I was so excited about getting the word out, and um, so he tried to calm me down. But you know, things got rolling. We had our first event on the 15th. Got to over the time meet so many of you, and you all took off with the marches and everything and that. And I've been scrambling trying to catch up to you all. And I completely fell out of contact with James. But at the beginning there, you know, there were a lot of times with him and Rudy, and we would talk about, you know, what was going to happen next and the excitement and everything like that. For me, it's been like for Occupy, before Occupy, you know, the whole environment was just so not open to talking about things and discussing things, and it was just a huge burst. In the last couple years, it's been all the cognitive dissonance and trying to separate from what we've been conditioned to do. And I was thinking about James this week and this weekend, and then when I saw the pictures on Facebook and that, I know Rudy's thinking a lot about him. I talked to Charlie. Charlie's thinking about everybody, and he was real torn up to hear about James. And James is pretty special. I'm glad that his family's with us tonight. I'm glad his daughter's here, because he always, no matter what was going on, and once we saw James, it just kind of, we always knew why we were here when we saw his smiling face. And I wish I had a chance to say hi to him when he had come back. But I'm glad to see you all and everything, and I appreciate everything James did to get us all going on the paths we're on today.
Kirk?
What can I say about James Hill? Brother, friend, father, comrade. I love the guy, man. And to tell you the truth, if it wouldn't have been for him, the night that I was arrested here in this park, I probably would have lost my mind. Because he made it fun. He made me realize it wasn't so bad. We were doing it for a reason. We had purpose. And he was the one that made me realize, you know what, we were in the right, they were in the wrong, and let's laugh about it. So, that's the one thing that I will miss, really, is his perspective. You know, his perspective always made me realize, hey, there is another side to things, and as shitty as things can be, we can laugh about it to make people realize how fucked up it really is. And that was what James was for me, as a friend and a comrade. That's what James was all about. But also, though, I saw him recently before Christmas, and he'd just come back from California, and he was telling me that he was trying to help his daughter get back into school and get up and going, and he was really focused on Maddie. So, like Elena said, that's one thing that I really admired about him is, aside from everything that he was as an activist, as, a fireball, he was a father, He was a father to a lot of people, I know people in a lot of other states, and if you're streaming this, there's people that when you say the name James Hill, a lot of people call him Dad. You know what I mean? So, you know, Harris, Leslie, I don't know if you guys are watching, but this one's for James.
John, you want to say something?
I guess I'll go with mine.
All right.
So it's no secret we argued. I was waiting for the laughter to finish. But James recently came back from California, and I offered him a place to stay when he got back. And we sat, and he drank his Yingling, and I drank some bourbons. And the biggest thing about James was, beyond his open-mindedness and acceptance, was his forgiveness. We even though we argued, even during on the ground here, we could walk across the street and have a drink together, and we'd be fine again. But that was his passion, and that passion is what I want to keep remembering and take with me after this. And because we both came from the same peace activist 80s 90s era frustration of nobody's doing a goddamn thing anymore. And when we saw this, both of us got excited. We came from different sides of it, so we combated, but eventually we came together. And he was an absolute brother, just bar none. So I'm really glad I had those moments with him when he came back just recently, that I can carry that with me as well. Sorry, I'm a little, it just means a lot. And the last thing I was able to do with James was something that he loved dearly, and that was ride down the road on scooters together with the Orlando Scooter Society. And I was beaming smiling because I was like, finally, I've been able to ride my scooter with James. Like it was just the big deal, and that was our last moment. And again, I'll always cherish that. Thank you.
You got something to say?
Yes, I do. Well, I knew James, and he was a great guy. We got along real well, and I wrote a poem for him, and I'm going to share it now. And it's kind of relative to the modern age. It's called Death in the Cyber Age. He lives on in the cloud. Loved ones post to his wall. Electronic life extension. This is death in the cyber age. Unusual and odd at first to scroll and scroll, to scroll through a life and lives touched, but then the warmth and the love mask the medium. This is death in the cyber age. Tributes and grieving make their digital way and come to rest. This is death in the cyber age. Words, images, moving pictures, multimedia, multi-expression, an outpouring of love and respect fill the empty, limitless space. This is death in the cyber age. 10,000 years ago or yesterday, a social network is vitally human. Around a fire or a glowing screen, this is death in the cyber age. Event, Candlelight Vigil to honor our friend. Click and join. Join in the celebration. This is life in the cyber age. This is life in any age. Come celebrate. Come celebrate. Come celebrate.
Thank you.
I'll say something. This is me. I'm Marie. I met James in 1988 in Massachusetts. And we got married and we had a kid. We got divorced. We fought a lot. And we were also friends to the end. And we miss him very, very badly. I'm so glad that this is here. Thank you.
Want to say something?
I'll try. I'm an introvert, but I'll give it my best shot. That's why I posted it on Facebook. But where I really learned to admire James was when I was in D.C. And I believe it was the same day that he was referring to. But we were at McPherson Square, and the police, the D.C. police, had come to tear down the Anarchist Library. And that was when I really saw James in action for the first time, because he started flipping over pallets, he started screaming and yelling at him, and they kind of backed off a little bit. They didn't want to get too close because he was angry, but I think he was also hurt because he was really proud of the library. And I would have to say that also the thing that impresses me was the fact that when I first got there, the occupier said, "Oh, you're from Orlando, do you know James?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know James, but I didn't know him real well yet. But the really cool thing was, as soon as he saw me, he knew who I was. And he smiled from ear to ear and came up and gave me this really strong, warm hug. I'll never forget it. That's it.
Want to say something?
Yeah.
I'll try. Um, God, I first got involved with Occupy. I was always, had a family, came out of the workaday world. I wasn't really able to ever camp or do the things that in my heart I really wanted to do. But something about James that really drew me to him. Um, and he never made me feel unwelcome. He always encouraged me, always was there with a smile, with something encouraging to say, a hug. And I always coveted, he was one of the people I always sought out whenever I would get to come down here, and I was always anxious to come down here when I could. And I always wanted to spend time with him. And, when he came back, he reached out to me on Facebook, say, hey, brother, let's get together sometime. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do that, so I really regret that. But it just reminds me that to cherish these moments that we have with each other, and to not take lightly our connections. And when we have a chance to see someone that we haven't seen for a while, go do it, because they're not going to always be there for us. I miss you, brother.
As a note to what she said about DC, when I went to Tampa, they all knew who he was, and that's you could kind of figure, yeah, they would know because it's near Orlando. But then I went to Charlotte, North Carolina, and people are like, oh, you know James? Then I went to New York City to the Occupy anniversary. They asked me about James.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, LA knows him. He's everywhere.
Yep.
Still. That powerful that everybody knew him, no matter what Occupy you were at. Actually, they knew him, I think, in Asheville as well when I went to that Occupy.
To me, I might not have spent as much time getting to know James as I would have liked, but I spent a lot of time with him and watching him. And as an observer, when I think about what is to me, when I think what was Occupy Orlando and the Occupy movement, I think James Hill is what comes to mind.
Yeah,
the man,
pretty much. Yeah.
The man had an energy level and just such an intense passion for what he cared about. And I worked and spent a lot of time with intense, passionate people, but I don't think I've met many people that were quite so intense. And he and I never got to know each other in a personal way closely enough, but I've sensed from the beginning that he and I shared some of the same demons in our lives, in our personal lives, and struggled with some of those same things. And I always that was just always there, in my mind, and something that we probably shared. And so he's having a pleasant vacation, and he'll be back.
Oh, yeah.
He's the only activist I've ever seen get arrested with a smile on his face. We were in D.C. a couple of years ago. We got arrested. He got arrested at an action. He chalked a pillar instead of the sidewalk, and they found him and caught him, singled him out. He didn't know why he was being arrested. None of us knew why he was being arrested, but I filmed it, and he had a smile the whole time. He's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, why is he being arrested? They didn't know why he was being arrested, but while every cop was trying to put him in the paddy wagon and had their sticks out, they were huffing and puffing. Their adrenaline was rushing, and James was just laughing and laughing. He just walked right in the zone. Yeah, in the zone. Nelson?
James was a man well acquainted with pain and grief, and he and I spoke one time when it was raining pretty hard and we were tucked underneath there, and those are the people that are sensitive to the pain and suffering in the world, the ones that are acquainted with it. And he had a conviction that no one should suffer as much as he has, and he wanted that to change. He did not want what happened to him to happen to someone else, and he didn't personalize it. He went deeper with it. He looked at what the root was, and he took it to where he could go with it to see that it was a systemic issue and not a personal issue. And that to me takes, great courage to dig within yourself the way he did and say, you know what? This is not just my pain. This is not just my suffering. And he took it to the next level. And so that's what he leaves me with, is take it to the next level.
No, we're gonna help. If we're here to do anything, it's fucking make noise. Please be quiet while you're doing this.
Does anyone else want to say something about James? All right.
I met James at the first Bank of America action that we had. It was like right before Occupy started. It was like the beginning of it. And it was interesting. We really hit it off in the beginning. And from that first time, we basically became brothers in the causes. And it was great to know James and really experience all the hard work that he gave to the group. And we tried not to take any ownership of Occupy, and it was all about it being an anonymous and fluid organization. But there were times, man, where someone really had to grab the reins and explain what was going on in Spain, how we were going to go about, direct democracy. And we really did it. And with him helping us out in the beginning, and it was really a great experience. And it's great to see everyone together again, um, in this time here, as sad as it is. But it's important that maybe we can build some bridges and continue some of the things I think that James would want us to do. And I think maybe all of us, need to take a look and, say, hey, man, look at the spirit of, traveling country to country and on a scooter, going through all the shit that he did from every Occupy all over, and well before that too. Anyways, I really, I'll miss him, and I'm glad I knew him. Thank you.
Is it one of those bars where you can sometimes be there till 5 in the morning drinking?
All right then, let's get solid fucking Darity on 3.
Wait, mic check.
Mic check that. Anyone not hear me? All right. We're gonna say solid fucking Darity. On 3.
On 3.
1, 2, 3. Solid fucking Darity. All right, cool.
Nobody's gonna like him though.
Still around to solidarity forever.
Well, I'm gonna set this down somewhere. All right, so I'm gonna stop it and save it, and then start streaming again.